this week I'm talking about exercise recommendations when it comes to strength training if you're just getting started with strength training. So what exercises to focus on, maybe what to do first, what variations to do first, and what types of exercises to do first. Guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time hopping on, hello, my name is Bree Ogletree. I'm an online fitness coach for women, teaching women how to use strength training in order to get leaner, get stronger, and feel completely badass in their bodies. Strength training is just like any other skill, so you need practice. So the more that you do the exercises, the better you're gonna get at the exercises, the more you're gonna progress, the stronger you're gonna get, and the more confident you're going to be doing these exercises. So the biggest thing is just to get started. Don't worry about being perfect with these exercises. Just continue to practice and continue to try to improve your form over time. Strength training is great because there's always something to improve. So even myself, somebody who's been lifting for 15 plus years, there's still always something I can tweak, something I can improve upon. There's a lot that I can improve upon, even with that long of a background in strength training. So strength training is a lifelong pursuit. There's always something to work on. So just go into it with that mindset that there's always something to work on, always something to progress in, and always a way to grow and get better. Now there's going to be 5 different types of exercises we're gonna go over today, and I'm gonna give you 2 examples of each one that you can get started with right away that I think is great for beginners, or even if you're an intermediate lifter just trying to improve your form a little bit. These are great variations to these exercises that you can definitely incorporate into your program. I've touched on this before, but we never really outgrow exercises, so I still do a lot of these variations. Actually, most of them I still use. So just keep that in mind when I am going over these exercises. These are just variations that I really think that are great for beginners because it kind of helps drill in form a little bit. They're not as intimidating as maybe some of the other more advanced exercises, and they just keep you safe overall when you are trying to learn how to strength train for the first time. So the types of exercises we're gonna go over today that I think are important in any program, whether you are a beginner or you are an advanced lifter, are going to be squat variations, hinge variations, row variations, upper body push variations, and then core exercises. So those are the 5 that I'm going to touch upon today, and then I'm going to give you guys 2 exercises or 2 examples of each that you can get started with right now to create pretty much a full body program in order to get started with strength training or free weight training to get you started. So first things first is your squat variations. So squatting is pretty much fundamental to strength training. If it's not in your program, or if it's not incorporated into your strength training program, I would really question the program. Squatting is a foundational exercise when it comes to strength training. So it is important to learn, and today we're gonna go over 2 variations. The first one is going to be a squat to a box with a counterweight, and the second one is going to be the goblet squat. And you can do the goblet squat with a box behind you as well, or you can do it without a box behind you.
The squat to box with a counterweight is one of the first variations of the squat that I teach clients in order to get them to really sit back in their hips and gauge depth when it comes to grooving the squat pattern. It's also a safe variation just so that you have something behind you to reach for and to gauge the movement a little bit, and so that you're not just doing it out in the open. So it's a little bit more of a safe variation. The next squat variation I would choose would be the goblet squat, but still using the box or the bench behind the client if they are just brand new to strength training, just as an added sense of security and to continue to groove the movement pattern of sitting back in the hips and then dropping the knees, bending the knees as you descend into the squat. But once they're more comfortable with that, then I would start to take the bench away and have them perform the goblet squat without a bench or a box.
After assessing clients that I work with in person, I usually make the decision to start them either with a squat to box or a goblet squat. And this is all going to be dependent on how they perform in their assessment, what their hip mobility, their ankle mobility looks like. And that's going to help me figure out what variation to start with. But one of the two is definitely probably going to be one of the first exercises that I give them. If you've never squatted before in your life, I would recommend using the box, so using the squat to box to start, and then progressing to the goblet squat as you get more comfortable with the squat pattern, really pushing your hips back, dropping down while maintaining a tall chest, and just getting more comfortable with the squat position and movement. The next type of exercises that I would want you to learn as a beginner are going to be hinge exercises. So think deadlifts, glute bridge, hip thrusts, anything that has a hip dominant movement pattern, that's going to be a hinge exercise. So the two variations that I would recommend for that, just getting started if you're just a beginner, are going to be a dumbbell Romanian deadlift and a kettlebell deadlift. But before we go to those exercises, the very first thing that we need to learn is how to actually hinge. So what the hinge pattern actually looks like.
Or the hip hinge. You're going to start with your feet about hip width apart. You can cross your hands at your shoulders. You're going to soften your knees and start sending your hips to the back of the room as your chest drops to the ground. And while you do this, you want to maintain a nice flat back, shoulders back and down away from your ears. Again, maintaining a soft knee bend, and then coming to about parallel to the floor. So your lower back, your back should be about parallel to the floor, and then you're going to stand all the way back up. This is the basic hip hinge. It's also called the body weight good morning, this specific exercise, but this is how I start to teach the hip hinge. In the hip hinge, your hips are always going to be higher than your knees, so definitely keep that in mind. This is a hip dominant movement.
I usually include in the warm-up or the mobility drills of my clients just a body weight good morning to help them kind of understand what a hip hinge actually is, what it feels like, and what it looks like. So I would definitely start there, start body weight, and start by learning the body weight good morning, just so you get an idea and get an understanding of the positions that your body should be in when you are doing a hip hinge. And then from there, we can start to load the movement. So for a dumbbell Romanian deadlift, you would just have the dumbbells right in front of your thighs to start, but the movement is essentially the same as your body weight good morning. So you are softening your knees, pushing your hips back, dropping your chest down, and then coming to about parallel, and then coming back up. So that's probably the first variation that I would teach somebody or just getting started with hip hinging. But the next variation that I would go over is going to be the kettlebell deadlift. So the kettlebell deadlift is a little bit different than the Romanian deadlift, in that we are deadlifting the kettlebell all the way from the floor. So we're going from the floor to standing and back to the floor. The Romanian deadlift, you're just stopping at parallel, so we're never touching the floor with the dumbbells or the kettlebells, whatever you're using. And this is gonna help kind of prime you and get you used to the hinge pattern from the floor. And this is gonna come in handy when you get more comfortable with the exercise and we move on to something like using a barbell or a trap bar or your deadlifts instead of a kettlebell or dumbbells. The next type of exercise that I would teach a beginner or that I recommend for a beginner is going to be row variations. So row variations are upper body horizontal pull exercises. So it's a pull exercise with your upper body. So it's really gonna hit your upper and mid back. The exercises that I would recommend that you start with are going to be a 3-point dumbbell row and a standing or seated cable row. Using these variations, again, it just puts you in a safe position. It's not too much loading on your spine or your core, because you do have support by either standing or sitting, or in that 3-point stance by using your arm as a support arm on the bench, so that you can really learn the row pattern without having to worry about supporting your entire body with just your body weight if it were to be just like a bent over row or something like that. So I would definitely use a 3-point stance to start and a seated or standing cable row variation. Next is going to be your upper body push exercises. So the two variations that I am going to give beginners are going to be an incline push-up and a dumbbell bench press. I definitely like giving the incline push-up really early on in the process to get the client more comfortable with doing push-ups. Push-ups are a great body weight exercise for building upper body strength and defining the muscles of the upper body, the chest, the shoulders, the front of the shoulders, the biceps, the triceps. So they are a great exercise, great strength exercise to incorporate into your programming. So I like to start clients early with incline push-ups just so they can get used to the push-up movement pattern, what it looks like, what it feels like, and to help them kind of groove that movement pattern so that they can eventually do a push-up on the floor. Now, the height that you use for your push-ups is going to vary from person to person depending on your strength, but just start at a surface level that is challenging, but you're able to complete probably 8 to 10 reps when you do the exercise. I also like using dumbbell bench press because it's a little less intimidating than using the barbell to get started. You just need 2 dumbbells to get started, but it's still teaching one of the fundamental moves of strength training, which is bench pressing. The last type of exercises that we're gonna go over is going to be core exercises. So there are a ton of different variations of core exercises that target different things or work on different things. There's things such as anti-extension, anti-rotation, rotational exercises, anti-lateral flexion exercises. There's all different types, but the 2 that I would definitely start with are going to be planks and supine marches. Most people, for the most part, are familiar with planks, whether that's an elbow plank or a high plank, just holding that position. This is really great for core strength, and it's really important for the other exercises such as squatting, benching, doing push-ups, hinging. So it's really important to have a really solid core, really stabilized core in those exercises, and planking is gonna help you build the strength to be able to be stronger in those exercises. The next one is going to be supine marching. So supine marching is an anti-extension exercise that's going to challenge the stability of your core while your limbs are moving. So I just start with the legs. Eventually I would progress this to a dead bug. So dead bug, it's your arms and your legs that are moving, but it is challenging the stability of your core while your limbs, your legs, your arms are doing something else. This is definitely important to train in your strength training programming. It's just gonna give you the ability to stabilize your core, to stabilize yourself while your limbs are doing something else. Now, if you're looking to put your own strength training program together and you're just getting started, you can definitely just pick one of each of the exercises in those 5 categories and make that your full body strength training program to get started. That is definitely a great starting point, especially if you're a beginner trying to just get something going, get started with strength training. So just pick one of each of the exercises and make that your workout. Another thing you can do is download my free strength training guide. So I have a free guide at intuitivestrengthcoaching.com where it basically walks you through step by step how to create your own effective strength training program. So I do touch on the exercises that I touched on today. It's a little bit more in depth in terms of, rep schemes, sets, reps, exercises, all of that. So it breaks it down a little bit better if you want like a guide to go along with and you want to just kind of see what other exercises are out there. I definitely recommend go getting that. You can download it again at intuitivestrengthcoaching.com. It's absolutely free. Definitely go check it out if you're interested. But a couple notes before I sign off for the week is to make sure that you do a proper warm-up. So a proper warm-up is going to you're going to do exercises that are going to help you warm up for the exercises that you're doing. So if you're squatting, for instance, you're going to do maybe a body weight squat or maybe squat to stands before you get started. If it's a hinge pattern, you're going to do, if you're doing deadlifts in your workout for the day, maybe doing some body weight good mornings to get started, just to warm up the movement pattern before you actually load the exercise. In terms of rep scheme, if you are a complete beginner, I would recommend, staying between maybe 10 to 15 reps to get started, just to help you groove the movement pattern a little bit better and help you get more comfortable with movement pattern before focusing on loading up the exercise so much with the weight selection or how much you're lifting in the exercise. The last thing I'm gonna talk about is progression. So just making sure that you're progressing your exercises and your workouts week to week. So you can do this a slew of different ways. You can increase the weight a little bit week to week. You can decrease the rest time that you're taking between either exercises or sets. You can increase the amount of reps that you're doing, so keep the weight the same, but increase the amount of reps that you're doing week per week, maybe by like 1 or 2. Or you could slow down the movement a little bit week to week. So maybe the first week you start with, 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down. The next week, maybe you do 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. So you take a little bit longer to go through the exercise. It's just going to make the exercise more challenging week to week. So there's several ways that you can progress. Just pick one and try to progress week to week. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to my channel. I post videos every week to help you get stronger, get leaner, and feel badass in your bodies. If you have additional questions about strength training, please leave it in the comments. I'm always happy to continue the conversation after the video is over. I just want to hear your thoughts and maybe your questions on the topic of the video. So this week it is strength training. So yeah, leave your comment, leave your question, and I will definitely get back to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.